Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by Orlando Homes Express, brokered by eXp Realty, proudly serving Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. Call 407-790-9957 or visit WeSellOrlando.net. Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you. As we're heading towards mid-October, man. Football season's heating up, and we've got a big one coming up here for you against the Memphis Tigers as the UCF Knights continue on their 18-game winning streak. We got a lot to talk about this week on the show. Like I said, Eric Lopez is here, Brian Murphy's here. Our special guest is going to be Jeff Brightwell from the University of Memphis Radio Network to talk about the Tigers. UCF with an 18-game winning streak coming in, and as Brian Murphy mentioned, it is old enough to vote. So, Brian, is it actually already registered in the state of Florida or no?
Jeffrey, I have a question. What party would UCF's winning streak be labeled under? Is it independent? Is it Democrat, Republican? Is it the Green Party?
Whichever one supports the license plate that says 2017 National Champions. I think that's the one that you need to go for. We are actually already on board with that. So, whoever's in charge. So, we've got a lot to talk about here. Black and Gold Banneret is where you want to go. We are SB Nation's home for UCF sports. You can follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret. Follow us individually at Jeff_Sharon. Eric Lopez Elo, Spokes_Murphy, and also make sure you follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret, and subscribe to this podcast on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. All right, let's dive on in, fellas. UCF Memphis, 3:30 kick on ABC for much of the country, ESPN2 for, I guess, parts west. Memphis comes in 4-2. Their wins are against the following. By the way, all of them at home. Mercer, Georgia State, South Alabama, and UConn last week. They scored 52 points at least in each one of those games. However, in their losses, they've scored 21 and 24 against the only two of the three conference opponents that they faced. Navy on the road and Tulane on the road. And the Tulane game was a real disaster for them on ESPN2 on a Thursday night. But here they are, ABC, chance to avenge the the American Athletic Conference championship game from last year. Of course, that 62-55 overtime game that certainly left a lot of UCF fans like yours truly in a catatonic state. One of the most bizarre days in the history of UCF sports in general. I wrote on blackandgoldbanneret.com this week, this game just scares the living tar out of me, even though UCF got the victory, picked up another win last week over SMU by dropping 48 points on them at home, and doing so in, not exactly the most crazy impressive fashion. Am I wrong, Brian Murphy?
Well, Jeffrey, I will say that you panicking is just sort of your homeostatic way of being.
I wasn't. Listen, I think I deserve a little bit of credit here. I have not been panicking this year.
No, absolutely not. You do not, because you started panicking on Monday. Usually you panic on like a Friday.
Yeah.
You panicked on Monday, Jeff.
I don't know, man. There was just something about this game just doesn't feel right. I don't like that it's on the road. I don't like that it's against a team that, we beat in dramatic fashion last year. They're going to be ready for us. This is their Super Bowl. I don't know, man. I feel like this has the potential to be what Bill Simmons calls the no effing way game, where they suddenly do everything right, and then we can't do everything right, and then all of a sudden it's the fourth quarter. You look up, and you're down 41-24, and you're like, "What do we do now?" I don't know. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I mean, you're probably wrong, because like half of your argument just there was a bunch of like cliches
I know.
old.
I'm violating my own rule.
Old subjective sort of non-analytic feeling stuff that really doesn't matter. I would say this, like, yes, Memphis is good.
What you say doesn't matter.
It doesn't. No, yeah, right. And Memphis is good. Like, they're going to score a lot. That's the reason why. What's the over/under for this game?
81.
Jeff? Okay, so it's getting out of control. I mean, that is an absolutely insane.
Well, you say that, Murph. You say that, but that last year's title game was 62-55.
I know, I know, but it's just weird that like Vegas, which typically I think Vegas is fairly conservative with these things, is saying like, nope, both these teams are going to top 40. We got it. We know that's going to happen. Which is I know how no matter how good these teams are on offense, it's still kind of nuts to I can't wrap my brain around it. I will just say this. So yes, we know Memphis can score. Darrell Henderson is amazingly good. Like you could have so much fun just going through Darrell Henderson's stats, the running back for the lead running back for Memphis, going through his stats and seeing how he compares to the rest of the nation. It's amazing how far out in front he is to so many, in front of the rest of the country in FBS. But this is a Memphis team that, again, defensively has dealt with injuries. That's why the Tulane game was really, it was an awful loss. But part of that was because they were nursing injuries that entire game. And if you look at the wins and you just list them, Jeff, there's nothing there that inspires a hint of confidence. They beat a Mercer team, which is kind of like South Carolina State. They're not in the FBS. They beat two Sun Belt teams who were sub 500, and they beat possibly the worst team in the FBS, UConn. Now, so has UCF, but at least UCF has faced a respectable FAU team and a somewhat decent ACC team in Pitt. Like, Memphis has no skins on its walls they can really smile about. Like, all of its wins have they've not been tested. So I think as good as this team is, we really don't know how good Memphis is at all, because they haven't been tested by anybody. And the teams they've lost to are the teams that they were tested by, like Navy or Tulane. They lost to them.
Some of the things that I think are really something about, you mentioned Darrell Henderson from Batesville, Mississippi, who's having a year which I don't even think this is even. It's almost incomprehensible how good the season he's having right now. He's got 934 yards, by far and away the best in FBS. He's got 12 touchdowns in 6 games. He scored 3 against UConn his last time out. By the way, 79 carries on the year, which works out to 11.8 yards per carry. And he's only a junior. That is unbelievable. He's actually 70, almost 70 yards ahead of the guy who's second in the country in total rushing yards. That's Jamar Jefferson of Oregon State. So, obviously part of that is like he's just been breaking off massive chunks left and right. But yet, here's Memphis, and we bring this up with Jeff Brightwell. They and UCF are both in the top 10 in rushing offense in the country, and yet they're both in the hundreds in time of possession, which just gives you an idea of, the sort of pace that these offenses play at. You mentioned the over-under is set at 81. The highest over-under, at least looking back from what I've been able to find according to OddsShark, was Cal Oregon in 2016, which was an 89 closing total. Could you imagine? But in 2012, this is amazing. 2012, there was a Baylor West Virginia game that I think you guys probably remember. Over-under was 85. The total ended up being 133 in that game. But there's just something about the fact that, when I've seen UCF and their rushing defense, what some of the things that FAU is able to do against UCF kind of give me a little bit of pause, even though they were able to take care of business. Do you have any concerns, Brian, looking at this matchup and saying, okay, if UCF is going to trip up here, this is what's going to happen?
Well, sure. I mean, we know their run defense has not been like stellar all the way through. They were pretty good against SMU, but SMU is not a good running team. Like, they were not a good running team coming into that game. So yeah, could I see Darrell Henderson like ripping off 250 in this game because UCF can't stay, gap sound and they over pursue with their attacking defense? Like, I definitely could. So that's probably how they get beat. I do think they'll be able to force the quarterback, as Brady White, into at least a turnover or two. That'll help. But Randy Shannon said on Tuesday, this is not about one player. We got to focus on the entire Memphis team. Well, that's the correct way to look at it. But this really is about what UCF does against Darrell Henderson, because he's the engine to that entire offense. He sets up that passing game.
Right.
If they shut him down and put everything on White's shoulders, UCF's got this team where it wants them. Then that secondary can start baiting him and start picking him off, and they will. It comes down to what can this defense do against Darrell Henderson. And again, they've played better against the run recently, but this is a completely different kind of animal. And if you want to compare it to what they did against Devin Singletary, which wasn't great, they missed a lot of tackles, he had a lot of chunk yard gains, and Henderson brings a lot more speed, a lot more. So it's going to be dangerous in that sense.
Yeah. Well, as we look at the chances that UCF have coming in, this is, according to ESPN's FPI, their advanced analytics for college football, of the 6 remaining games that UCF has on the schedule, this game has the lowest UCF chance of them winning. It's still over 50% at 53.9% chance of them winning the game. But that's still, see, again, that gives me pause, because there's something about this matchup that it just makes me nervous. When you get into a track meet with somebody, you never know what kind of crazy stuff can happen. And I know you laugh at me, Brian, but last year during that conference championship game, when Memphis was lining up for what would have been the game-winning field goal at the end of regulation, I know you kept saying there's no way that kid's going to make it, but the fact is they were attempting it. And as far as I know, if you got the field goal team out there at the end of regulation, you just never know if the kid's going to actually hit the home run if he's going to actually hit the home run or not. And that's how close UCF came against this Memphis team. I know there's been a lot of changes. No more Riley Ferguson. No more Anthony Miller.
Well, did you not watch them play Tulane? Like, what is it that you have seen this year that would suggest to you that all of a sudden Memphis is this legitimate threat? Are they going to move the ball? Of course they are. They're going to move the ball. But there is no signs that Memphis can even come close to slowing down this UCF offense.
But they can score points, and they can score points via the running.
Good defense, do we know that? Do we know that they could score? Because they didn't score a lot against Tulane, and they didn't score a lot against Navy.
Fair point.
I think we would agree this is by far, it's not even close. UCF's by far the most talented defense Memphis has seen all year long. I mean, the Memphis schedule was garbage. It's absolute garbage. They haven't beaten anybody of any good. Now, the only thing that could pop up is it's a home game. Okay.
Right. There's that. National TV, they're ready to go for that. It's against a team that there's a history for. And I know, again, but it's a road game for UCF.
Yeah, but it's not an intimidating place. They don't care about football up there. Let's be honest.
Oh, man. I don't know, man. You don't think that they're going to turn out for this game?
No. I didn't say that. I think they'll draw, but it's not like an intimidating place. I don't think anybody's saying, hey, let's go. We're going to the Liberty Bowl.
Jeff, are you sure you want to post this podcast?
I don't know, man. I don't care. I don't care if I get dragged by Memphis people. To be honest with you, we've heard all those arguments about attendance before, but ABC, number 9 team in the country, coming in, and I don't know. But
Can I say two things here? Like, I like how Eric just takes what I say and just gives it a really like upper level of convincing that I can't bring myself to do.
He takes what you say, which is very measured, and then gives it a cappuccino.
Yeah, and I love it because it's what I want to say, but I don't want to go on that limb. And he's like, "Screw it! Here's what this is about."
This is why I love you guys.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say, but with like less authority. I also say this, just to go back to the thing from last year, like they were setting up for the field goal to win the game. Like, yeah, you know how they got in that position? Because Mackenzie Milton made a really dumb throw over the goal.
Yeah,
so
the interception.
So
right.
Guess what? Don't turn the ball over. And that'll really help. I mean, I really think that, like, it's so simple. It really is when you go through all this. Like, okay, what are the keys to winning this game? I don't know. Stop the run. Don't turn the ball over. Force more turnovers on the other side. Like, yeah, that sounds about right.
My
Jeff, if I were you, I would mortgage your house right now. Call Vegas.
Oh boy.
Mortgage the house. And lay UCF with the 4.5 right now.
Okay. Well, I was going to say,
family can buy a new house in Hawaii. There is no reason this game should be a 4.5 point spread. None. I'm blown away. I'm stunned.
Now, then why is it?
I think because I think people have too much. I think they look at Memphis at home as this, what they've played well. They have played well at home in recent years.
Because the line hasn't moved, by the way, very much. It opened at 4.
No, and I think, it's interesting. This has been the game that everybody has circled. And I think part of this goes back to what Murph said at the beginning of the year and has been consistent all year about UCF will not go undefeated. And I feel like a lot of people have already predetermined that this would be the game. If they're going to trip up, this is the game they're going to trip up because Memphis is playing for revenge and it's at Memphis and they could score points and this or that, which I would agree with, except there's this thing we played the games on the field, and Memphis has not been impressive at all. They played 2 teams with a pulse and lost to both of them. That's hard to do.
All right, I feel better. I feel better already.
They've only defeated dead people, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Read me the wins again. Read those wins again.
All right.
Go ahead.
The wins are... All right, all 4 wins are at home.
Yeah.
Both the losses are on the road, I will mention.
Yep.
The wins are 66-14 over Mercer.
Woo!
59-22 over Georgia State.
Whoa!
52-35 over South Alabama. And 55-14 over UConn.
I don't even... if you want the Sun Belt, I guess that's a good schedule. I mean, there's a lot of bad teams. I mean, it's funny people want to, give UCF a hard time with their schedule strength. I mean, that makes UCF look like they play in the knockout stage, the death row of scheduling. I mean, that is Memphis is the biggest disappointment to this point. They should have been undefeated going into this game at least.
I think you're right about that. Yeah,
they should have been. This should have been a top 25 matchup. And they didn't. They've been disappointing. Yeah. Now, could they play and rise to the occasion and play well? But yes. But I think the only way this game is close is if UCF helps it make it close, whether it be turnovers or some missed tackles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and missed tackles against a guy like Henderson, that could be a problem. If Vegas is trying to get equal action on both sides of the spread, they're doing a very bad job of it because 68% of the money is on UCF minus the 4.5. 64% of the money is on the over of 81. Now, I mentioned that the line hasn't moved very much. It's opened at 4, went up to 4.5. The over-under opened up at 75.5 and has moved up to 81, and people are still banging the over. So, they're expecting a lot of points and a UCF victory pretty clearly.
That could mean UCF wins like 51-30.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Not that crazy.
Yeah. I could see the game. I could see a final score like that, 51-30. Now let me ask you this, and we'll take a quick break afterwards, and then we'll go over to Jeff Brightwell and get his perspective for Memphis. But All right, so UCF comes in. This is the big story after the week because of some of the things that happened in front of them. And this is what I was telling you guys would happen is, the biggest thing for UCF is keep winning and then get some help. And attrition might help you out. The Knights moved up the Knights moved up 3 spots in the AP, 4 in the coaches poll. They're number 9 in the coaches, 10 in the Associated Press now. And like I mentioned, this game at Memphis is, according to ESPN's FPI, and I don't know what goes into this formula, but according to their FPI formula, this is going to be UCF's toughest game the rest of the way. They have a 53.9% chance of winning this game. The other games that they have against ECU, which would be which is scheduled for next week. 93.7 for UCF. They got a 94.3 against Navy, 84.7% against Temple, 75% against Cincinnati, even a 66% chance of winning, according to ESPN, on at USF. So they think that this game will actually be a tougher lift for UCF than the USF game. And USF is ranked 23rd, by the way, and Cincinnati is ranked 25 in both polls, which was actually good to see. If UCF gets through this game, is the path to 12-0 just clear for them the rest of the way? Do you guys think? And Eric will start with you. No?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
All right, no, Murph jumped in.
Murph, you jumped in. Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
No. Now you, Eric.
That's all you got?
Now, Eric. No.
All right, so you're not counting the conference title game.
Not counting the conference title game.
Because I personally think, I don't care what the rankings say, I think Houston's the second best team in the American, and I think they're a legitimate threat to UCF.
Yeah, Houston's a problem. I'm glad we don't have them in the regular season.
Well, no, but you might get them in the conference title game. I got to tell you that's a toss-up. But that being so, if we're not counting that game, I'm going to agree with Murph because the South Florida game is one of those games, and it's the case with every rivalry. You throw out all the information and stats and throw it out. It doesn't matter.
Data doesn't matter.
That one doesn't matter. That's one of those where they're going to line up and they're going to play, and you don't know what to expect, and anything can happen. So I agree with Murph. I think South Florida is still a tricky game from that standpoint. I know Navy's not good, but that kind of actually worries me a little bit. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah, you never know what Navy team you're going to get.
Because, you could come out flat. You could come out this.
You could not tackle.
Correct. Which we still don't know. We still don't know. In fairness, now, this defense hasn't been tested, in my opinion. It hasn't. UConn's terrible. Pittsburgh's terrible. FAU's not, it turned out, is not anything special. You can't make the argument, Jeff, to your defense. Memphis, to this point, might be the best offense this UCF's seen. To this point, I think that'll change real quickly. But no, I'm not going to say it's a smooth sailing at all. I don't buy. I'm going to be with Murph on that. I still think they'll go undefeated, but I don't think it's a smooth sailing. If we've learned anything from the South Florida game, is that there's no such thing as smooth sailing. Look at last year's game. Look at the year that USF was terrible and UCF was, in the ranked there in 2013, and that game came down to the wire. So I wouldn't say that at all.
Well, I would, my whole thing about them going undefeated now, I don't think it's going to happen. I do include the conference title game and the bowl game as well. Let's just put that out there. Look at
this guy.
Yes.
Look at him backpedaling already.
No, I am not. I've said this from day one. Undefeated means not losing a game in the season. If the season includes a bowl game, that is part of the season. But let's also say this. We've seen BYU beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin, and Army probably should have beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma.
Right.
So to say that all of a sudden, because UCF beat Memphis, that Cincinnati's not a threat or that Navy's not a threat because those games are at home, I'm not ruling out those games. And then certainly the USF game, Eric laid all those points out. Very fine. Like I said, those are rivalry games. You just can't really script. This is a hurdle. It's a significant hurdle, but there are still plenty left on the road ahead.
Well, one note
that's why I think we should have a weekly column about Jeff Sharon panics about every UCF football game.
It doesn't even have to be about the game. He might just panic about the weather. could panic about
the panic button.
I mean,
yeah, we'll call it the panic button.
Complain about Aaron Boone's managing decisions for leaving starters too early.
I can't. No, I'm not complaining about Aaron Boone.
Eric, it's too soon.
Yeah, it's too soon. We need some time.
I apologize. I didn't get ready for this podcast until 8 minutes before it started. Thankfully.
Hey, listen. Not all of us are involved in fantasy NBA drafts here. Okay. God. Anyway, one note. This I think is actually the best statistic about this game coming up on Saturday. This will be the 13th meeting between UCF and Memphis. Memphis won the first meeting all the way back in 1990 in the Liberty Bowl, a 37-28 victory. The two teams did not play again until 2005. Since then, UCF has won 11 consecutive games against Memphis. They are 11-1 all-time against Memphis and have won the last 11. So, I mean, you would think that Memphis would have gotten UCF at some point, but they didn't play in 2014, 15, or 16. The closest game between these two teams was a 26-24 UCF win in 2006 at the Liberty Bowl as well. Of course, people remember the 2013 game, the hit and the fumble that resulted in a late UCF touchdown that gave UCF the victory over the Tigers there. I don't know. I when do you ever see one team beat another that's in the same conference? That one team has not beaten the other one since, in 28 years. I mean, that's really something. I mean, you could probably see it if
Are you picking Memphis? Are you picking Memphis? Go ahead. Are you taking Memphis? You're taking them.
Past results have no impact on future results.
You're absolutely right. You're appealing to my rational brain. I'm gonna go with UCF, but I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be close. In fact, I'll say this. I think Memphis covers the 4.5.
Oh wow!
I think they cover the. I think they cover the 4.5. And you'll have to, the live blog may go dead at some point because I will have fainted next to the computer, while I'm monitoring it. Anyway, we will have
how many pairs of underwear will you have sitting next to you during this entire game? Because I feel like your whole life is at stake.
Four, one per quarter. And I'm getting the waterproof blankets as well. Anyway, 3:30 kick Eastern time on ABC. Dave Lamont's doing the game with with former Buffalo Bill Ray Bentley. By the way, Ray Bentley, go Google him when he played with the Buffalo Bills. You want to talk about a man who mastered the art of eye black? Ray Bentley. And it's good to have Dave Lamont doing a UCF game as well. A guy who we know we know from our days down growing up in South Florida, Eric Lopez.
Longtime voice of the Canes, did sports talk radio down there. Good guy. I've talked to him, done a great job at ESPN. Ray Bentley, obviously, coach there. And then Alex Cordry, who was the sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Rays up until, I think, a couple of years ago. Yeah. Will be doing sideline. So good crew. By the way, make a note. The game is on ABC and depending on where you're listening to this, make sure you check your TV listings because depending on where you live, especially if you're in the East Coast, most of the East Coast will get this game on ABC. Whereas maybe if you're on the West Coast, you might be getting this game on ESPN2. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a switch between Washington and Oregon is the other game. In fact, actually, I got this from 506sports.com. Basically, the southeastern quarter of the country is going to get the UCF Memphis game. So that's going to be basically from Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana, and then you just draw a line across the northern border of Missouri straight across to the east, and that's who's going to get UCF on ABC, and then down. So the southeastern quarter of the country is going to get that game. Everybody else in the Northeast, the upper Midwest, Chicago, and then west of and then west of basically Missouri and Arkansas are going to get the Washington-Oregon game on ABC. So, but hey, I mean, that's, UCF getting a chance to be on ABC for a quarter of the country. That's huge, man. That is really huge. You get the chance to win that game. That's going to be, then the TV schedule is going to get real interesting, isn't it, Eric Lopez?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the East Carolina game is already announced. It'll be on ESPN2, and we'll see where it goes from there. And like I wrote on blackandgoldbanneret.com, if they keep winning, you might have that big-time show, College Game Day, come to Orlando maybe by November there, maybe for that Cincinnati game. Although Danny White
was hinting at Navy. Did you see that?
Yeah, he spoke at the Touchdown Club, I believe, in Orlando, and he said they're trying to push, I guess, maybe the Navy game because it's Veterans Day. And I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I think that feels like one of those predetermined ideas that when people thought Navy was going to be good, but the problem is Navy's 2 and 3, and they're probably going to be around 3 and 6 when they come down to Orlando. So
are you sure? Let me ask you this though: are you sure he wouldn't drop that hint unless he got a phone call from somebody saying
no?
Okay.
No. I can tell you for a fact. I can tell you this for a fact.
For a fact,
someone who has been to 3 College Game Days, and I know people that work on that show, and I've seen it behind the scenes. They will not call the host school as far as hosting game day probably until 2 or 3 weeks before that particular game.
So they won't like no one is in advance saying, "Hey, UCF, we might, we might get with you here on this." No,
I don't. Not right now. Now it's too far in advance for that because things change. Could they have floated the idea of coming to UCF at some point? Yes, I think that is definitely possible.
Okay,
but I think what happened is when you looked at the schedule, Navy was the attractive game with being homecoming and Spirit Splash and all that. What has changed is Cincinnati's the more attractive game. Cincinnati is the better team. Cincinnati's in the top 25 right now. Cincinnati, that could have impact in the American Conference Eastern Division race. That was not the case when we were thinking about this maybe in August and September. So that's why I think, and if you look at the schedules, and I broke it down on the article, not a lot of competition on November 17th, whereas in November 10th, there's a lot of competition. In fact, I would argue that UCF Navy is not even the most attractive American Conference game in November 10th. Cincinnati plays South Florida that day.
Yeah, you might be right.
Cincinnati. So I would be surprised if game day went to the Navy game. I think the best shot is going to be the game against Cincinnati. Plus, Florida A&M plays Bethune-Cookman in the Florida Classic. So game day could kind of pitch it as we're covering multiple events in Orlando. They've done that in the past. I don't see the Navy game, but I do think game day has a shot to come to Orlando in November as long as UCF wins and as long as the UCF fans, please leave ESPN personalities alone. Please.
Yeah, just
stop whining. Stop. I know you get mad because they don't think they take you seriously. Get over it.
Well, the more we win, the more they'll take us seriously, plain and simple, right?
Exactly. It's all good.
All right, so let's take a quick break, and when we return, Jeff Brightwell from the Memphis University Radio Network will join us, longtime friend of ours from the American Digital Network as well, and he'll break down Memphis for us when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by Orlando Homes Express, brokered by eXp Realty. Sam Unger and his team at Orlando Homes Express proudly serve Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties, specializing in buying, selling, and new construction. Sam is a very proud UCF graduate, class of 2006, and he's got a special deal going on right now for the 2018 UCF football season. Night fans, if you work with Sam to sell your home, he will list it for just 4.8% commission. And if you're buying a home with him, he will rebate you up to $750 at closing. So if you're ready to buy a new home or sell your current home, upgrade or downsize, Sam and his team have you covered so you can find the right home at the right price in the right location. So give them a call right now at 407-790-9957. Again, that's 407-790-9957. Or visit them on the web at WeSellOrlando.net. Again, that's WeSellOrlando.net. You can also reach them on Facebook at Facebook.com/WeSellOrlando. Get in touch with Orlando Homes Express today and make finding your dream home a reality.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Fegley.
And I'm Trey Strelko. Where are we? This isn't our usual spot.
It looks like we've landed in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those guys.
You know, Nightline has UCF sports covered.
Week in and week out, we bring you interviews with newsmakers and in-depth analysis of UCF sports.
Subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe to Nightline on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at UCF_Nightline.
Trace, can we go back to the 1148 studios now and start working on our next all-new Nightline?
How do we get out of here? Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now back to you guys in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here. blackandgoldbanneret.com, SB Nation's home for UCF sports. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret. Let's get to our guests. We're going to continue previewing UCF in Memphis. And joining us now, Jeff Brightwell from the University of Memphis Radio Network. He does the sideline reporting and the pre- and post-game show for the Memphis Tigers, and he's been a pretty good friend of mine for a while, going back to American Athletic Conference baseball. But we're bringing him in to talk a little Memphis football. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, man. Good. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Well, last time these two teams got together, it was a heart racing day for sure for everybody. That 62-55 American Athletic Conference championship game. In overtime, Trey Neal with the pick. A lot has changed since then, and a lot has stayed the same. For Memphis, Riley Ferguson, Anthony Miller are gone. For UCF, Trey Miller, who got the pick, is gone, as well as several other key defensive players. But some new guys have stepped in for both squads. We know about the UCF guys, but the Tigers right now, boy, it has been just an incredible season for Darrell Henderson. What has he brought to this Memphis team this year that it was missing before?
I don't. Maybe a little bit more consistency in the run game as far as the explosive plays. It was there last year, but you saw so much of Anthony Miller and Riley Ferguson last year is what the offense relied on. Not that it didn't have talent at the other receivers and the other running backs, but Darrell's been such a highlight, and he's kind of had to shoulder the load because now his roles change from having a Riley Ferguson who had some experience and could win the ball games to kind of helping out the new quarterback and Brady White. He, of course, came from Arizona State. He was one of the first recruits for Mike Norvell when he was offensive coordinator at Arizona State. So Darrell and Patrick Taylor, our other running back, really done a good job to kind of take the load off of Brady White in his first year, because it's been 3 years since Brady White stepped on a football field.
Yeah, and what a tremendous help it is to have two weapons like that. And I thought, I was watching the previous game against UConn, and both Taylor and Henderson racked up, over 100 yards. Henderson was just all over the place in that game. They both had 3 touchdowns. How much of an adjustment has it been really for that entire offense to go from that pass happy, Riley Ferguson throwing the ball over the yard to getting Henderson and Taylor on the outside and seeing what they can do with the football around the line of scrimmage?
It's been a bit of an adjustment because just Brady White's a different quarterback than what we've seen out of the last two, and Riley, and then you go back to Paxton Lynch, who was before Riley Ferguson, who these guys could really zing it downfield, open up the passing game. Brady White, he can do that, but we're not doing it as much as far as those deep balls. So now we're starting to see a lot of teams, Navy in particular, really Tulane more than Navy, because Navy plays how Navy plays as far as stacking the box. But in that loss to Tulane a couple of weeks ago, they stacked the box, dared us to run it, try to pass it a little bit, and they kind of frustrated the Tigers that game. That was not the Tigers' best game. In fact, Mike Norvell said in 2.5 seasons that was the worst game that he had seen. And it's one of those head scratchers. Every now and then a team, and no disrespect to Tulane, but a team just kind of comes out flat. And Coach Norvell said he saw that in the warm-ups to Tulane, but it's too late to kind of get on the guys in warm-ups. You didn't see it coming in practice, but we're seeing a lot of teams stack up the box now to try to stop this run game. So now it's going to be up to the pass game, and when things have gone well this year, they've gone extremely well. Then when things have not gone well, he's kind of got frustrated a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Here's the thing that scares me about Memphis, and I wrote on this on blackandgoldbanneret.com. The Tigers are 4-2. In each of their 4 wins, they've scored at least 52 points. We know this team can score with the best of them, right up there with UCF and Alabama and all the top scoring teams in the country. You're playing this game at home, 2:30 local time, 3:30 Eastern kick, national television, ABC. UCF coming in with an 18-game winning streak, and UCF beat Memphis twice in Orlando last year, including that for Memphis fans was a heartbreaking loss in the American Athletic Conference Championship game, nearly making it all the way to that New Year's Six Bowl, nearly stealing the bid from UCF on their home field. You've been around the team for so long. You've been around them for this week in particular. How are they approaching this game? Do they have that 62-55 score like posted up in their locker rooms? Like, what is their attitude heading into this?
I think the fans make a bigger deal of it than the actual team does. You know how teams get. Let's not lie. They do circle some games. I'm sure it's a game that's a lot of importance to them after last year. And for the longtime veterans, your 3- and 4-year guys, have never beaten UCF. You got to remember, Memphis has not beaten UCF since UCF was a FCS school back in the early 90s. So we've not beaten them since we were either members of Conference USA or the Americans. So they're looking, this game has more implications than just that championship game. Coming in with a record of 4-2 is not where Memphis expected to be. I think probably with the preseason expectations, a lot of people thought this would be 2 undefeated matching up, or at least 5-1. That Navy game could have gone either way. It was a 1-point loss, but I think a lot of people would have penciled us in as beating Tulane and at least being 5-1 in this ball game. But it's big. It would help us get back to 2-2 in the league and maybe get those expectations as far as the preseason back on track for the Tigers and a chance to keep alive a 10-win season. If you can get a win like this, then maybe with a little bit of help, you can manipulate some sort of a 3-way tiebreaker in the West at the end of the season and make your way back to the championship game.
Jeff, I was wondering about the defense. When you play UCF, you got to worry about the offense, the up-tempo, and all the weapons they have on the outside. Do you think that Memphis has the pieces, or at least they have some keys that will allow them to at least slow down the UCF offense?
Early in the season, I would have said we'd had a lot better chance, but we've really been banged up. This team's got 8 seniors, only 4 played in that Tulane game a couple of weeks ago. We were able to get up big at the half and get some guys some rest the other day against the Huskies in that blowout win. I would imagine we're just going to see a lot of points in this ball game. It's going to be tough to stop either team, I think, in the long run. The possessions will be key here. I know in this ball game, you can't give up possessions. I mean, we can talk about the defense, but the fact is, if you turn the ball over and you lose a possession or two in this game, I think you're toast in the ball game. You've got to hold on to the football. It'll be tough for the Tigers, though. They've got some experience in the backfield. T.J. Carter has been big for the Tigers the last 2 years. He's a sophomore now, but he played really big as a freshman. We're starting to get a couple of guys back in the defense, so hopefully they're healed up and ready to go, because it's going to be tough to stop. You've got 2 very explosive offenses that can score in a hurry.
Tony Pollard, last year and the last 2 years was one of the best return men in the country, and hasn't been as productive this year. And they also haven't gotten him involved as much on offense. I figured they would get him more involved on offense. What has something held him back? What is the deal with Pollard?
Well, he's not getting the ball kicked to him at all this year. In fact, UConn's the first team that's really kicked to him, and he took 2 squib kicks from UConn. So that's really all he's seeing. As far as his return production, not only are they not kicking to him, they're just kicking away, and the Tigers have tried everything. They've had Darrell Henderson on the return team. They've tried to flip-flop the guys before the team's kick. They've tried to go in motion. They've tried to hide Pollard behind Henderson, stack him kind of in the eye back there on the 5-yard line and the goal line. As far as offense and getting him involved, they try to mix him in there, but right now just Darrell Henderson and Patrick Taylor take the bulk of the carries, and they're so deep. As far as the receivers, you take a look at John Williams, Coxie, Sean Dykes. They're starting to get Joey Magnifico, the tight end, a little bit more involved in the offense. He didn't have a lot of receptions early in the season, but he's starting to pick up a little bit. But, Tony Ballard's got some play, but with Darrell Henderson in the backfield, it's tough to get carries.
Mm-hmm.
Henderson gets a lot of the attention, but I remember last year, I thought me and Murph watching Anthony Miller in person, we were like, wow, This guy is incredible. And, of course, he's now with the Chicago Bears. Talk about the wide receivers. And because that's a new quarterback wide receiving combos here with a new quarterback and the receivers, because you got a lot of plays from Miller last year, who has kind of stepped in there because they're going to have to probably make some passing plays against UCF here if the Knights are going to try and stop Henderson.
Yeah, DeMonte Coxey has been the big guy. He's played all 6 games, 30 receptions, averaging nearly 16 yards a catch, 4 touchdowns so far this year. Him and John Pop Williams have been the two kind of go-to guys. As Pop's got 19 receptions on the season, but they've spread it around. You don't have any, other than Coxey, any big reception guys like you do with Miller. You knew if you were in a jam, it was going to be Riley Ferguson to Anthony Miller last year. They're spreading around a little bit more. You're starting to see Sean Dykes get involved in the offense a little bit. They're using Henderson, Pollard, and Proctor out of the backfield. Now starting to get the tight ends a little bit more involved, like I said as well. Machine Slade's a guy that you could watch. He's played 5 games, only 6 receptions, but I think Machine could be really big for us. Antonio Gibson a little bit. But if you look back at the box scores of the game, Brady has been able to consistently hit about 7 to 9 guys per ball game instead of maybe last year where it was a little bit more, you knew it was going to be Riley to Anthony Miller, especially when you were in a jam or needed a big play.
When we're watching the first quarter of this game, in the first 2 possessions, I would say, for each team, what's going to have to happen? What should we look for that where you'll see that and say, wow, okay, Memphis is going to have a pretty good day today?
Well, I would just look for Darrell Henderson run. That's been his big thing in the first quarter this year. In fact, we've been scored on. We've been down 7-0 several times so far in this game, even to some of the a couple of the Sun Belt schools we played. South Alabama went down and scored on us. Georgia State went down and scored us, and then Darrell just broke a huge run to get the momentum back. Unfortunately, the same thing happened at Tulane, but we were not able to carry that momentum down there. So I would look for something big out of Darrell Henderson early. I wouldn't really look for a deep ball from Brady White like you would have out of Riley Ferguson. He's good downfield, but he just doesn't have, or at least we've not seen that explosive, big 40-yard bomb. It's more of a catch and move with possession with Brady White.
It sounds to me like a very similar situation to what UCF was running into with FAU and Lane Kiffin and their running back Devin Singletary, who UCF jumps out 14-0 on everybody, but FAU is able to claw back and take that lead before UCF turned things on. So. But I do feel like, just like you do, that we're going to see a lot of points scored in this ball game. 81 is the over/under. It's actually up from 75.5 is what it opened under. What do you think? Should we pound that over or what?
The 81. I would probably take the over.
Yeah.
if I did that type of stuff, I would probably take the over in that one. I could easily see this turning into what we saw last year down in Orlando.
Yeah, it should be fun. The weather's supposed to be good too, right?
Right. It's supposed to be in the upper 60s, mostly sunny that game. The thing with Darrell Henderson too, it's not as if we're using him to control the clock. He's got so many of these explosive plays that it's almost like a pass-happy offense. We can run the ball 4 times, and your possession's still only a minute and a half long. So that's kind of put our defense out there a couple times. If you look at our time of possession, it's kind of hung them out there a few times just because they don't get a huge rest over there. I'm sure it's similar to the UCF's defense. They don't always get a big rest when they're over there on the sidelines, because you guys are just as explosive as the Memphis Tigers. So it'll be a long day as far as the defense is probably having to be out there. It's going to be a lot of in and out for both of these teams.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun because as we like we mentioned, you've got interestingly enough, these are 2 teams that are in the hundreds in FBS in time of possession, yet they're the number 8 and 9 rushing offenses in the country. When would you ever think to see that 2 of the top 10 rushing offenses in the country would be amongst the worst in time of possession. It's such a.
Yeah,
I guess that's football in 2018.
40 minutes a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You'd think that they would be up there.
They're only eating up 20.
Right. It's the usual suspects are up there like Georgia Tech, Navy, Army, Wisconsin, and then here's UCF and Memphis. Go figure. But anyway, Jeff Brightwell, thank you so much for joining us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Real quick, where can UCF fans follow your perspective on the Tigers?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Jeff A. Brightwell. So don't forget the A. You'll get some strange guy. So make sure you put the A in between Jeff and Brightwell.
And
you'll get some guy with his dog on his Twitter profile.
last thing for you. You ready for baseball season yet, or what?
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. We'll be playing ball. I think we come back down to you guys this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing the renovations over at Bergman Field. They got the press box and the new deck up yet?
They have the press box
Awesome.
as far as it is, but I don't know if they'll have it. I don't know if they have enough room for you to sit there. Murph knows more about that than me. Is that right, Murph?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say anything. I'm going to regret.
Oh, thanks.
I understand renovations timetable. No problem.
Now he usually leaves that to me. All right, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, man.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks to our friend Jeff Brightwell. Again, make sure you follow him at Jeff A. Brightwell on Twitter. All right, let's dive into some Olympic sports here for you. And Eric Lopez, I wanted to start with volleyball because, I'm just not happy with the AVCA right now, the American Volleyball Coaches Association. Todd Dagenet on Twitter, took to Twitter to sort of calm me down a little bit, but I'm still not happy about it. The Knights this past weekend, very, very big weekend for UCF. Took both matches at home against Tulsa and Wichita State, both in 4. The reason why this is so huge, Tulsa was undefeated coming in the conference at 4-1, or excuse me, at 3-0, and Wichita State came in. They were 3-1 in the league, but their RPI were both very high. Wichita actually was 42nd in the RPI, and I forgot where Tulsa was, but they were pretty high up there as well. UCF beat them both, and maintained their RPI at number 14 in the country. The Knights did by winning those 2 matches, and I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun to watch that. I did PA for the Wichita State match. And this match was just it was one where I've never seen Todd Dagenet as fired up after a match as he was that day. But double doubles from Aaron Olson and McKenna Melville in the match, as UCF actually lost the first set and then came back and won 3 in a row. And as a team, the Knights hit 248 in the match and held Wichita to 198 as a team. Leading the way was Anne-Marie Watson with 15 kills. Melville had 14, 12 more from Christina Fisher in that match. It was just very evenly distributed across the front line. Brianna Garcia had 7 kills, but they were all very timely. And then Jordan Pingle, 23 digs. And she is, this weekend, she may very well become UCF's all-time leading leader in digs. She's within reach in the next couple matches. But nonetheless, right now, volleyball is 14-3, 5-0 in the American, 8-0 at home, and yet, Eric Lopez, no love in the AVCA coaches poll. Even with a number 14 RPI, UCF didn't even score enough to see get enough votes to see their name in the receiving votes category, which, to be fair, does list those teams that appeared on at least 2 ballots. 6 teams mentioned only had 1 ballot, but UCF wasn't even mentioned in any more than 1 ballot. What in the world is going on here?
You tell me, Mr. Volleyball. I mean, people complain about where football is being ranked. I mean, it's nothing compared to what volleyball is. Look. Let me ask.
By the way, I should mention, Cincinnati is receiving votes. from the American. They're the only other American Athletic Conference team receiving votes. To be fair, they're 14-4, 5-0. UCF is 14-3, 5-0. But still, the only reason why I think Cincinnati's getting votes, I hate to say it, is because they have Jordan Thompson and UCF does not.
Well, and they made the tournament more recent. They made it a couple years ago, whereas UCF hasn't been to the tournament in 2014.
Okay, but aren't they supposed to throw that out, though? If it's true about football, it should be true about volleyball, too, right?
Clearly they don't. I think volleyball of all the sports, and I'm not a volleyball guru, but I've talked to people around it. I mean, it's clear. If you're in the Big Ten, you're in the Pac-12, heck, West Coast Conference, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. If you're in the Big 12, if you're Nebraska, I mean, if you're the Texases of the world, I mean, those are going to dominate. And to me, I would argue that of all the sports, of all the Olympic sports, of all those major sports, I feel like volleyball is the most non-power, whatever you want to describe it, mid-major, don't you think? I mean, Isn't that a part of that? And UCF, and I think what's interesting, I think we're trying to see where the benefit of the UCF brand, how does it impact in certain sports? Like, I feel like in baseball, for example, we've seen how baseball, they've gotten the benefit of the doubt. There's been times where they've been ranked when you're like, really? They're ranked? So I feel like baseball, for example, has a good brand name. They get the benefit of the doubt. I feel like women's soccer will get the benefit of the doubt. I think softball recently has gotten a little more respect in that. But then I think there's other sports that maybe they don't. And I think volleyball's in that category, Jeff, where for whatever the reason, I don't think UCF looked at as a volleyball program, or at least very good. It's interesting. I've looked at some interesting, like volleyball prep, for example. They've got their projections for the NCAA tournament. They have UCF ranked in the 30s. And the other thing that worries me, I looked at the RPI numbers. The American Conference currently is the 7th strongest conference. They're only number 7. When they were a multiple bid league 2 years ago, they were the 6th rated conference. So Clearly, I just don't think people respect the league, and I don't think they think the league is that great, and I don't think they're respecting the UCF's wins. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's the only thing I can come up with. But still, that is it's just unexplainable and unacceptable to not get more than a vote. Let's say if you're even generous and you say that
I'm not saying that they
not
should
even get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they should be even ranked in the top 25, but you get no more than one person, no more than one coach in the entire country voted for UCF on their ballot. That's preposterous.
Now I'll throw another, because I know this from softball polls and I know this from other sports. Some coaches vote for coaches they like, that they're friends, and some coaches vote for coaches they don't like. I like Todd. You like Todd. I mean,
but we don't have votes.
Right. So are some of these people that are not voting for UCF, do they not like Todd for whatever the reason? I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas of what, because there's no other reason. No, I mean, they should be getting votes. That's all we're saying. To not get more than a vote, and that's assuming they got a vote, and I don't think they've gotten a vote. It's unbelievable to me.
I think we need to sick hashtag UCF Twitter Mafia on the volleyball coaches.
Something.
No.
I mean, it's just kind of wild.
No.
I mean, it's terrible, and I feel bad for, because they're having a great year.
They are. This is the best year the UCF volleyball's had, I think, since they won the conference 4 years ago.
Are they better than the 2014? I know it's early, but from what you've seen, can they be that 2014 team, which was the team that won the league and got to the NCAAs? Are they better than that team? Are they on par with that team?
Here's the difference. Those two teams, if I was comparing the two, they're two sides of the same coin. This team, as we mentioned before, all the freshmen and sophomores who are the key players on this team. Only one senior in Jordan Pingle. This team is incredibly talented now, and will only get better as the next 2 to 3 years unfold. The 2014 team, that was the year when everything that Todd had been building for the previous 6 years just clicked at the same time. It was like all of a sudden the puzzle pieces just came together and fit perfectly right. That team had the advantage of veteran leadership experience on top of the talent that it had. I mean, Delana Sarden, what can you say? All-American candidate. one of the greatest players in school history, and will always be known as that. This team might have the best. This team might actually be more talented than that team, just in terms of raw talent. But the other teams, the 2014 team, if you could fire up the Madden machine and do this, the 2014 team would have the advantage in that they know all the tricks. Okay, so that would be my take on that. Now, fast forward to next year, assuming that that the returnees are who we expect them to be, and you get the recruits that UCF is looking for in the next year or two. Something special is brewing for this team, so they're definitely worth checking out. They're back. That's right. They are home this weekend for the Northeastern teams. Temple on Friday at 7, UConn Sunday at 1. Temple is they're off to a rough start. 4-13 overall, 1-4 in the league. UConn's 10-8, but 2-3 in the league. So a chance for UCF to, again, hold serve at home before you go back on the road for ECU and Cincinnati, and a chance to see history. Jordan Pingle very close to 2,000 digs. Interestingly enough, that career milestone, 2,000 digs, the all-time UCF record for most digs by a player is Meredith Murphy has it at the moment, and she's at 1,999. So
wow.
So if and when Jordan Pingle hits for dig number 2,000, she not only becomes the first UCF player to eclipse that milestone. Obviously, she also instantaneously becomes the number one dig leader in UCF history. So
wow. All right. By the way, this is the information here from I was mentioning earlier, the prepvolleyball.com. They have a field of 64 that they project every week who they think will be the 64 teams that make the tournament, and they rank them. And they have 2 teams in from the American Conference. They have Cincinnati, who they have ranked 28th, and they have UCF in ranked 39th.
So they're thinking that the Cincinnati-UCF matchup is going to be obviously very critical going forward. Again, UCF plays that match on the road coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Yeah, so right now they're projecting a 2-bid league for the league, and they believe it's UCF. But then what's interesting to me, and maybe down the road I'll try to get somebody from Prep Volleyball. They're still ranked low at 39, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what's the issue there at all there, Jeff. It's kind of interesting, but Coach Dagenet's right though. I mean, it doesn't matter. The beauty of volleyball, if you win, doesn't matter. You're going to get into the field, and at that point. That's the goal. So at least they can control that, unlike other sports. But it's very interesting that they can't get more than a vote.
It's unbelievable to me. Anyway,
that's your sport there, Jeffrey.
Listen. I'm not. I'm out there tooting the horn here. Here we are. I mean, I'm playing the reveille for UCF, and no one seems to be listening. Anyway, who's really making a charge? UCF men's soccer. Speaking of segues, the Knights once again. 8-2-1 on the season right now. Most recently, a 4-3 victory at Tulsa last Saturday. They have a game coming up, a huge game coming up on Friday, and it is a nationally televised game. UCF against UConn at home on ESPNU Friday at 4 p.m. Friday, October 12th, 4 p.m. UCF against UConn on ESPNU. Here's the deal. Here's the thing that I think is interesting about UCF right now. 2-1 in the league. UConn, by the way, 2-0-1. UCF is second in the American at this moment. The Knights lead the nation in shots per game. They shoot the ball at the goal 20 times per game on average. That is pretty remarkable when you think about it. That's total shots. Shots on goal per game. They've got 98 shots on goal in 11 games. That's 8.91 a game. That's also tops in the country. And one of the chief beneficiaries of that has been, without doubt, Cal Jennings, who is currently second in the country in goals. And interestingly, we'll take a look at this for a second. But total goals, he has He has 14 goals. He's 2 ahead of the guy in third, Javier Carbonell of Georgia Southern. Interestingly, he's 7 goals behind the guy ahead of him in first, is Andrei Shinyashiki of the University of Denver. Cal, we can go on and on about how great Cal is. This guy Shinyashiki is having an unbelievable year for Denver. They've lost only once in 13 games. Denver has. In fact, it was their most recent game against the University of Virginia. He has a 4-goal game, I think 3 hat tricks, 3 2-goal games. I mean, he's of their 28 goals, of Denver's 28 goals this season, he scored 21 of them. And interestingly enough, also Eric Lopez, he actually went to Montverde Academy for high school. So he has some Central Florida ties, Andrei Shinyashiki does. As far as UCF is concerned, however, like we said, we look at the rankings in the RPI. UCF is 32nd right now. UConn is 13th, so that tells you how big that game is on Friday at 4 p.m. In the United Soccer Coaches poll, UCF came in at 19th in the most recent rankings.
Imagine that, Jeffrey, a team that's getting into the polls.
Unbelievable, right? At 8-2-1 nonetheless. They're 19th, and UConn is 20th, back to back. There you go in the American, in the coaches polls. At least the men's soccer coaches are paying attention. North Carolina, by the way, is number 1, and they're 9-1 on the season. So, Coach Calabrese, by the way, who just passed the I believe the 200-win milestone for his career, it's just all come together. And we were worried about last year, when we had him preseason, Eric, like where's the scoring going to come from? Cal Jennings looked like he was pretty good at the end of last year, and he said, well, it's going to be a team effort. Well, Cal Jennings, turns out, has gotten even better. And it's good to see this team is finally getting this recognition. Now you get this nationally televised stage for UCF soccer. And I don't remember the last time UCF men's soccer was on national TV. Do you?
Well, I mean, if you want to count last year's championship game against SMU when they got to the conference title game, that was, I believe, I was on ESPN News when they got to the conference. As far as regular season game, no, not at all. I mean, it's very seldom that they get soccer on. I mean, this is a big deal. To them to pick up this game is huge, and it might be the two best. I mean, based on the rankings, are the two best teams in the men's soccer. By the way, how about this stat? The men's soccer right now is currently the 6th-rated conference in men's soccer.
In the American,
which is really good in the American. Yeah, they're the 6th-rated conference. In comparison, I mentioned earlier. That's right. Volleyball is 7th, as I mentioned. Women's soccer is 7th. So men's soccer is right now, if you go based on the RPI conference rankings, is right now the number 1 Olympic sport, at least for this year anyway. And this is a big showcase game with 2 teams that a lot of people are projecting to make the field of the tournament, which really amazing job. Again, Scott Calabrese. Can we just kind of give a shout out? I mean, this is just his 2nd year. And ever since, ironically enough, I go back to a year ago when they went to UConn was ranked, hadn't given up a goal in conference play, and UCF went in there and upset UConn.
Mm-hmm.
This program, that was a turning point for this program, because since then, UCF men's soccer has been on a different level. The only reason they didn't make the tournament last year is because they ran out of time. We go back to the whole scheduling thing. But they have been incredible to watch, and I know it's tricky with a 4:00 start time. That's TV for you. But because originally
it is a Friday. If you get out of work early, head on down to UCF.
I hope so. And they had a great crowd. I know when they beat SMU earlier this year at home. That's a big match. And I'm looking forward to seeing it, if not being there. And I hope they get a great crowd. And it's a fun product. It's an exciting product. Think about what you just said. It's one of the top offenses in UCF. Now, Connecticut is traditionally one of the top defenses in the country. So it's a really contrast of styles. And they met in the semifinals last year. There was a UCF won 1-0, but UConn looked like scored a tying goal late in that match, but they didn't rule it that the ball was in, even though the replay showed that it was.
Right.
So they had a controversy. So these two teams have kind of in this last year have had some memorable matches and maybe building a rivalry here in men's soccer.
You mentioned how good UConn's defense is. They're actually tied for first in the American in total goals allowed. They've only allowed 10 goals all year. To put that into perspective, UCF has scored 30 as a team this year, and they're averaging 2.73 a game, which is more than 1 goal per game ahead of the second place team in the American. That's USF. But again, this is starting to get really interesting for UCF men's soccer now as they head down the stretch. Remember, they only have a few conference games because there's not that many teams in the American. UCF right now 5th in the country in goals at 30. There are only 5 teams that have scored that many. Wake Forest is number 1 at 38. But you got UConn, and then Tuesday the 16th, Florida Gulf Coast comes in as well. So 2 key games for UCF at home, and then USF next Saturday, October the 20th. And then USF, and then at Memphis, and then home for Cincinnati, and then that's it. That's the end of the season. So this is the final. This UConn game is their 5th to last game. It starts the final 5-game stretch heading down the stretch for UCF men's soccer. So again, ESPNU Friday 4 p.m. at the UCF Soccer Complex. Number 19 UCF against number 20 UConn. Make sure you get there if you're heading out there. I'm going to try and get down there for that Friday. That should be a lot of fun. All right, women's soccer. Here they are, women's soccer at 6-4-1, and we mentioned, Eric, before that after that loss to East Carolina, there's basically no room for error at this point. But they came up big against Cincinnati, a double overtime 2-1 victory for the Knights. Game-winning goal scored by Madison Mernon for UCF as they were down 1-0. And they got a goal in the 85th minute by Steph Sanders. And then, Kristen Scott scored the goal in the 85th minute. And then Steph Sanders scored the game winner in the 101st minute against Cincinnati for UCF to come up with the 2-1 victory. Here's where they stand in the American right now. UCF is in 4th place. Actually, they're tied for 3rd with USF at 3-1. Memphis is 4-0. Houston is 3-2-1. Of course, who does UCF have next on the schedule? You guessed it, the Memphis Tigers. Thursday at 8 p.m. That game will be streamed actually on Memphis's website. But this is a critical game for UCF because, like we said, Memphis is undefeated in the conference. They are 4-0. They are 12-1 overall. And in the RPI right now, Memphis is number 12. UCF currently falling in. We got to keep on scrolling in order to find him here. In fact, let's do Command F. UCF is 88th in the RPI at 6-4-1. So, again, now or never for Tiffany Robertson-Haydak's team. If they want to even have a remote shot at an at-large bid if they don't win the tournament to try and give them that margin for error. I don't think they have that margin for error, Eric. Still, do you? Like, can this Memphis game kind of erase some of those earlier slip-ups?
It's hard. Here's the problem, and I think last week it was an example. They beat Cincinnati. They got the result they needed against Cincinnati, but they lost in overtime to East Carolina. Yeah. So it was a wash. And I know, and listening to Coach Haydak, I mean, she feels that they haven't caught some breaks with the ball, and the result they probably deserve and things. But yeah, I mean, the Memphis is a must-win. You could still. I mean, they're still in the mix for the regular season title. I think they need a win here to have a shot to win the regular season title. If they don't win this match against Memphis, odds are they're going to have to win the conference tournament to get into the field of 64. Their RPI is too high.
Do you think that do they get in? Would they get? I forget if there's a rule in soccer where do they get an auto bid for winning the regular season?
No, they get a bid for the tournament.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just like, so it's automatic bids to the conference tournament. So that's what it's, but the thing is, remember, whoever wins the regular season title gets to host the conference tournament.
That's right.
UCF got to host it last year as a result of winning the regular season title. I mean, I think USF's very good. They got maybe the best player in the conference, one of the top goal scorers. And Memphis is very good. And UCF's, the tough part about the schedule is UCF's got to go to Memphis, as you mentioned, and then at the end of the regular season go into South Florida. So
this is a must-win, and to kind of stay in there, because I think it's Memphis or South Florida is the main threats to win the regular season title. And then potentially UCF may have to go back to either Memphis or South Florida to win the regular season title if UCF does not win the regular season title. So if you're UCF, you'd rather be at home and control your fate as far as to make the tournament. But I don't know, Jeff. It's a high RPI. We dealt with this in softball this past year where they had some great wins, but they had some losses that hurt the RPI. And unfortunately, as you know, we discussed it during the softball. If you have a very high RPI, you're not going to get in. And I think it's the same here. So I think you're right. I think it's a very slim deal, but any chance they have as an at-large and any chance – it's a big match anyway from a regular season title standpoint. But, yeah, they must get this win against Memphis.
So they also have 5 matches left. 3 of them are on the road. At Memphis, and do you know if the RPI factors in road versus home? I think it does.
I couldn't tell you top of my head. They should. Every sport does it. Formula is different, but I know softball does.
We'll have to call up Chris on that and see what he tells us. But Memphis is 12th in the RPI. That's who UCF plays next. Tulsa is 220th. You're not going to get any help from that game, but you better not lose it. All right?
Right.
SMU after that. Let's see. I'm going to pull up SMU. They are 96th. Not going to get that much help either. And then Houston and USF. Houston is 141st in the RPI, and then South Florida is 49th. So a little bit of help if you get that game. So basically, I think just based on that is, this is your task, UCF. You got to win out. You got to win that. You got to knock this thing out and take care of business, especially against obviously this game with Memphis and against USF. The game, if you go to UCFKnights.com, you'll see the watch link on Memphis' site, and then also Tulsa has a watch link up for that game as well. Memphis game is Thursday, October the 11th, 8 p.m. Tulsa Sunday, 2 p.m. Again, and the links are up there via those schools for you to be able to watch those games. All right, real quick, Eric Lopez, and we'll finish up with this. Now, you were inspired by one Brian Murphy to go check out some fall softball, and it was your first chance meeting Coach Cindy Ball-Malone, or Coach Bear as she's known, for UCF softball, heading into her first year. They're playing fall ball right now. We know how you are the softball Woj, of course, as we all know. Your thoughts, man? It's I know fall ball's underway. How's the team looking? How's Coach Bear adjusting to joining UCF?
Well, I had a chance to talk to her afterwards. I got to see them up close in the fall ball, and it was the first time I've done a historic day. First game for Coach Bear, as she likes to be referenced. First game coached here at UCF the past Friday, and they won 11-2. But it's harder. It's fall ball. It's not. You can only take so much out of it. There were certain players that didn't play and things like that, and they're trying different things. But
the scores are about as meaningful as my son's t-ball games. But anyway, go ahead.
Sure. But it was just fascinating to see them in person and see some of the different things they're trying to do there, especially in pitching. Aaliyah White had 9 strikeouts in 4 innings of pitch. She looked good as expected. The question is what's going to be behind her. They got a couple of freshmen behind her, and, of course, Sierra Ward, who's the walk-on. It's a sophomore coming in. Brianna Vasquez is a kid from California that threw a couple innings there. That's going to be interesting. But I was fascinated just to meet Coach Bear, because I didn't get a chance to meet her. I know you interviewed her when she got hired, but I had a chance to talk to her a little bit about what's it like, how's the transition going as we speak. I think she's still moving into her new house, actually. She's been living in a hotel.
Oh, my gosh.
And welcome to life in college softball.
I know. And she's got 2 small kids, too. Is that right?
Yeah. And, with recruiting and everything, been very busy. Here's a clip. Here's a portion of an interview that I had with her following the first fall ball game, with her thoughts on how things are going here with the new journey here at UCF.
Well, Coach, you just finished off your first game as the UCF head coach. How does it feel? It's great. I'm really excited to get out here with them. We've been practicing a lot for quite a long time, so it was great to see them just play. And I really enjoyed watching them execute a lot of the things we've been working on.
Obviously, you're getting used to these players. They're getting used to you. How has that been going so far? It's so early in the fall, but you're trying to learn what they can do, and they're trying to learn your staff.
Sure, yeah. It's been a lot of just we're meeting and we're going through our curriculum with proactive coaching, and just really digging into our character and our culture together as a team. So a lot of honest conversations and having to do a lot of icebreakers to get to know each other, like you said. But we understand that that's a process and it takes time. And my expectation for them and for myself and the staff is that we enjoy the process.
It's a beautiful weather here in Orlando. I'm assuming you've gotten accustomed to it?
I'm getting better with it. I came out here and I think I lasted about 15, 20 minutes throwing live to the girls in the first week. And now I'm lasting about a good hour and a half. So I came home and bragged to my husband about it, so I think that I'm getting used to it for sure.
A lot of times when a new coach takes over a program, you're kind of trying to find, you don't have a lot of talent players. That's not the case here. You've got some players to work with starting at the circle with Aaliyah White. Just kind of discuss getting used to knowing Aaliyah.
Sure. Well, I think the program's in a really good spot, and so I'm blessed to be handed a very good program, and the talent, like you said, Aaliyah, she's just fun to work with, and it's going to be cool to have her have different looks as a pitcher, and we kind of did that today and approached innings like, okay, you get this and this, and you only get the drop and the rise, and she's just a sponge, and that's what's cool is you've got a first-team all-region pitcher that's willing to learn, and that's very rare in our game at times, but she's a great leader, an awesome competitor, and again, fun to work with and always learning.
What's your philosophy as coaching? Because I've noticed you're more watching you even. You're hands-on, involved with the hitting, but you're also involved with the pitching. So do you delegate as far as handling the pitchers? Kind of what's your philosophy of that?
Yeah, we're just kind of get to know each other. Kendra has been around some great coaches, great pitchers. She's a great pitcher herself. And so she's really the day-to-day with the pitching staff, and I kind of oversee. And I think if I'm doing my job as a head coach, I delegate as much as I can, and I'm able to oversee everything as a whole. Because it's important for each individual player on our team to get time with me. If I'm in just one area, that's hard to have, to have that happen. So you didn't get to see our other two members on staff today. They're with Team Canada right now, but they're also very great, and they bring so much depth to our staff as well. So when we're all here, I kind of feel like I don't know if I have a job or not.
That's good, pretty good.
It's a good problem.
You retained Coach Tiff, who's been here, and that's got to help you. That knows someone that knows what the ins and outs of the program, not just from the player standpoint, but from the university standpoint, from a travel standpoint, all that things.
Yeah, and that's why I would say, I think in all roles, her role is the one where she's really had to make transition in learning my system and what I like. But she's been so great and just being good with the new stuff and really helping us, like you said, where do we go to find our paycheck, or how do we get our travel set up, and we haven't had those issues, and so I kind of pat myself on the back and say that's the smartest move I made, because she's really my right hand man in that way. So I'll say right-hand woman.
There you go. Very good. I've noticed on social media a lot of team bonding events, a lot of team togetherness. That seems like that's a big part of your philosophy, that you want these teams to build, to get along and have chemistry even off the field that can translate on the field.
Sure. Well, we spend so much time together, right? And we're our family away from our family. And, our number one rule is to be a great teammate. And I think that when these ladies understand that it's not just about softball, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, we're still going to be a family, even if we haven't seen each other in those many years. So the bigger picture is that, we grow as people and we develop as people. So family is huge.
What is anything surprised you so far? I know it's so early in your position. Is there anything surprised you about from the player standpoint or just the school? Anything that's jumped out at you since you've taken the job?
I think the big surprise is I got in here, I'm like, okay, it's big. And then I've been around more, I'm like, yeah, it's really big. But it's awesome. There's still so much connectiveness, connection. And us being out here as a softball we kind of are on our own island, but so many people come and visit us. We have a lot of investment from the school, from the staff. Our people are great. It's just great to see. We had academics here. We had leadership here. I mean, Kelly comes out, in the fall for us. So our staff is just very supportive and awesome. And I will also go to say, and we had our strength coach here. I mean, he was here the whole game, 10 innings, So I would go as far to say that the other thing, too, is super blessed to have so much athleticism. I mean, that, not like it's a surprise, but it's like, this is a good feeling, because athleticism never slumps.
It is, especially because I know you've talked about it. When you took over Boise, you had to build that up from scratch.
Sure.
Whereas here, you don't. You're taking over, and that's got to be a nice feeling where you can just kind of go.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't take away from how great this program is here. It was a very hard transition because that was my family for 4 years, and we went through so many, going from the bottom to the top. There's a lot that you learn and build together. So that athleticism there, and I would just say, it didn't skip a beat when I got here. So that part's been amazing. They learn concepts so fast here, and that's exciting, and it makes my job very challenging to be able to say, okay, now I got to be a coach. I don't have to work on those little things. So that's been a fun challenge for me.
I know you got a chance to go to watch a UCF football game in person. Have you checked out anything of the city, whether it be Disney, Universal? I know with the kids, that could be a popular destination, I'm assuming.
We haven't done Disney yet. They're still young enough where we don't have to do that. They won't get mad at us, but I would say, I have family here, so we visited them and just kind of getting to know the area. Hoping to get into our home soon, so, we're just taking it day by day and just enjoying really everything. There's so much to take in, but I know I'll have to come hit up some of the locals here to learn the ways.
A lot of things to do. Last thing, obviously, it's so early in the fall, so take me through the process here. What the players, what you want them to do from a daily basis here as you get them ready before the season.
Yeah. Well, you know what? With us, as far as day-to-day basis, it's really just focusing on what the few things and objectives that we set forth, and we just keep doing it over and over and over again. We get in and they're like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, oh, we're going to do the same thing as yesterday. And we really take pride in the little things like cuts and relays and bunt defense and just playing catch, and we just get really good at that, and that's what we've been focusing on. And I was really surprised or excited to see the girls do that in the game today. I know we kind of had that one inning, but I loved how we came back, got a double play, and found our way out of it. So on a day-to-day basis, we're just constantly working to get better, and again, enjoying that process.
Well, it's a beginning, so welcome officially, and enjoy. We'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
There is my chat with Coach Bear, as she likes to be referenced, after her first fall ball game. Of course, the Knights have a doubleheader in fall ball on the 12th, on Friday the 12th, by the way. We didn't have enough going on campus with the big men's soccer match. And then a couple dates to keep in mind, Jeff, as we'll get it, October 19th, Friday night, UCF will host Florida. The Gators will be here for fall ball. You don't see that ever. And then October 20th, UCF's going to play Team China. So a lot of fall ball action, but
is that the actual Chinese national team?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
okay.
Chinese national team. Don't be surprised if you see another international team get added, by the way, at some point in the next few months. But got a chance to talk to her for the first time. Obviously, you got a chance to talk to her. Very impressed, very fascinated by the fact she, as you mentioned, as you heard in the interview, she delegates a lot. You have Kendra Lynch, who's the assistant, of course, just played at North Carolina from 2014 to 2017. She's a two-way player, was a pitcher and an outfielder. She spent last season as a grad assistant with Florida State, helping them win the national title. So Kendra is kind of involved with the pitching staff, handling the pitching staff, but obviously Sydney oversees that. And then she's obviously involved with the offense, and why not? Boise State was number one last year in batting average. So obviously she's going to be involved in the offense, and I think it'll be good. I think the players have bought in. But it's interesting how she delegates and lets her staff do it with different things. And with Kendra Lynch, as I mentioned, doing handling the pitching, she oversees that, but she also is involved in the offense. So very interesting to meet her. I think she's still settling in. I think she's impressed, as you heard, with the resources that she has and things like that. And so she's still fitting in, and I think the players are still getting comfortable with her, and she's getting used to the players. But as you know, Jeff, as I mentioned in the interview, a lot of times when a new coach takes over a program, maybe they don't know what they have to work with. She's got a good roster to work with. The cover's not bare.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that this has the potential to be an interesting sort of refresh of the program, don't you?
I do. It's going to be very interesting. Now we'll see as the fall develops. As I mentioned, they play Florida on the 19th of October. They will play Team China on the 20th. They have some more fall ball games after that. They might add another international team down the road. So they're going to be tested, and they're going to, I think it's going to be interesting. You have a lot of players back, but, who's going to be the number 2 behind Aaliyah White? They got to get some innings there behind Aaliyah. That's been kind of an issue the last 2 seasons since Aaliyah's been here. And then, how much can she improve this offense? She, helped that Boise State offense be one of the top offenses, but that was in the Mountain West. Can she bring that into UCF with the players that she has? I think that's going to be some fascinating competition as far as who's in the lineup there and which players and where they play them, too, will be very interesting. So, it's fun to see. It was fun to see out there. And, I know in talking to her, I think she understands, too, that, as she gets settled in, she's got to bring the alumni involved, get involved with that and get to know them and things like that. So, but they're settling in, and it's fun. It was fun to be out there. I had to go out there because I wasn't going to let Murph show me up by going to fall ball and baseball. I can tell you that right now. I just wasn't going to happen.
Let's get Murph back in here, brother. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, as far as we're talking about fall ball, UCF baseball, they win their opener against Seminole State last week, which I was there for. And then they win at Disney against the Canadian Junior National Team, 17-1. That game sort of follows the old philosophical thought of if a baseball game is played and no one is there to see it, does it actually happen? Because no one was allowed to actually watch that game because it was held at Disney.
Sounds like a Tampa Bay Rays home game. And Miami.
Oh, wow.
Well,
this is uncalled for.
Well, listen, we should be, because there was some consternation on Twitter about that, right? Like, why can't we go see the game? First of all, it's fall ball, man. Second of all, it's not UCF's fault that happened. That is all on the mouse, man. That is all Disney. So.
No, but look, I'm happy to hear. Listen, I'm going to defend the people that were wanted to go. I mean, me and Murph are sickos. I mean, I've gone to fall ball every year, so I can't look. I mean, diehards want to go and they want to see what the new people out there, and it's no different, by the way, than people that go out to spring practice in football. I actually think you learn more in spring fall ball with softball and baseball than you do in football. Quite honestly,
you could probably learn more by just following Greg Lovelady on Twitter and then asking him wrestling questions.
Yeah, I know. Well, Murph, have you asked him yet about this Shawn Michaels coming back thing? I mean, this is a big story.
I didn't, and I should have asked him last Sunday. Eric, he wears a wrestling shirt every Sunday to the ballpark, and I didn't ask him on the Sunday fall ball game against Seminole State if he was wearing like a Mankind shirt or a Flair shirt. I should have asked him. I totally forgot.
That was not intended to be a segue.
By the way, have one more Jeffrey, get out of the way. Jeffrey, get out of the way for 1 minute.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, they do. They actually have one more fall ball game here, and actually, it's a part of this apparently stacked Friday on campus athletics. It's actually this Friday against St. Leo, but with everything else going on, I mean, no one will be there for that probably.
Are you going to be there?
I will not be there because segue, I'll be in Memphis.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
He'll be.
He's traveling, baby. Murph.
By the way, so, all right. Well, Murph, you and I, we're going to have to do this assignment at some point this fall. You're going to get Lovelady for his fall recap, and we have to address the Shawn Michaels because it's bothering me. It's really bothering me that he's coming back after 8.5, and I'm curious.
It's so bad. Eric, this past Raw, just look at this past Raw. You had, quote-unquote, D-Generation X get back together. They're in their 50s. Trish Stratus shows up. They have a tag team match set up with Kane and Undertaker. Is this 1997? Get out of this. This has to end.
Yeah, we need to address that with him. By the way, Jeff, I have this. Can I pitch an idea for UCF? No, this is not wrestling, I swear.
Okay. I'll allow it then.
So I want to pitch this. So Oklahoma, right? in a couple of weeks. They're going to have their softball team play the baseball team. It's kind of a charitable thing. Could we maybe do that down the road? Maybe have a little softball versus baseball, kind of a fun little activity deal there. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm the wrong guy to ask. If they did it, I'd be there. Yeah, I'd love to be there.
All right.
I'd love to.
Murph,
I remember back when I was a junior, softball had a media versus the team kind of fun game. And I remember taking a couple pitches from Lindsay Enders and then running to the dugout. But, but yeah, it was. I love those kinds of things. I think it's fun because and you can bring the camera out, and have a lot of fun.
Throw it out there, throw it out there. Maybe we do something leading up to media day in the spring. There, I mean, I know next week men's and women's basketball are going to have their media day, I believe, right? I mean, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Jeff, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up something that we talked about for about 60% of the podcast last week. How was the Phil Collins concert?
It was outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
It was outstanding. Nick Collins was a phenomenal drummer for his dad. I will say that. And the show was really good. Phil is obviously slowing down quite a bit. And his body is an absolute mess. I mean, in terms of how many times his spinal cord is a wreck.
I know.
His foot got completely messed up, broke it broke it a couple of times. And so it's kind of hard. He doesn't get around on stage. He actually sits in a chair and sings from a chair. But the musicians around him were sharp. The show was really good. He played all the hits. Interestingly enough, if you're a Genesis Phil Collins fan, if you get the chance to see him, he played 3 Genesis songs in his Phil Collins set. Which, by the way, it's known that he would never play Genesis songs in his solo tours and his solo shows. But Genesis isn't getting back together again. And so he played 3 Genesis songs, so that was actually pretty cool to see. So I got my fill. I checked it off the bucket list. I was happy.
So happy for you.
Me too, incidentally. So, all right, let's wrap this thing up. Brian, what you got coming up this week? As I know you're like we said, you're traveling out to Memphis for the game. You're heading out to the Liberty Bowl, man.
Yeah, it'd be my 3rd game at the Liberty Bowl.
You gonna hit Beale Street or what?
If I have time, it's a 3:30 game or 2:30 game, so you get a 3-hour game and then a few hours to do what I do after the game, which is called Potent Quotables, which is basically I take everything from the press conference and sort of synthesize the best parts of what was said during the post-game press conference and
content.
If it's hashtag content, if that's all done by 8, 9 o'clock, you might see your boy. Hanging out.
So this is your 3rd. I know you went to the Liberty Bowl against Mississippi State, right?
Right. I went to the Liberty Bowl against Mississippi State with all the cowbells, where UCF lost to Anthony Dixon and the Bulldogs. And then I went the following year. And then in 2008, I went to every road game. Boston College. They had a Southern Miss game that year. This was Conference USA, obviously. And then they had a game at Memphis, back when Memphis actually still had a live tiger on the sidelines.
Who won that?
Unfortunately, I don't know, Jeff. You could probably pull that up. 2008 UCF football schedule. 2008 UCF football schedule.
Divided by 3. I think it was UCF that won that game.
Really, I just know that following that team around that whole year, it was not a good team. It was not a good team.
4-8? No.
But they did get that win against Memphis, considering that the last time UCF lost to Memphis was 1990. So
that's fact. Yeah. Why wasn't I paying attention earlier in the podcast?
There'll be a quiz later.
28-21 UCF won. That was the November 22nd.
That was Memphis' last best chance prior to the conference championship game last year.
In front of a packed house of 18,000 going. It says here.
It was a very chilly day in Memphis, and then I'm just getting off track now. After that game, I went to a Memphis Arizona basketball game just down the road at FedEx Forum. And that was back when Coach Cal was in Memphis.
And more people showed up to the basketball game than the football game.
Oh, that was like number 6 Memphis versus number 4 Arizona. That was huge.
So actually, more people did show up.
Yeah, it was a great game.
By the way, a little cute stat here from that Memphis staff in 2008. Ready for this? So Tommy West was the head coach. Memphis went 6-7 that year. The offensive coordinator, a guy by the name of Clay Helton.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
No
Who's now the head coach at USC.
Was Justin Fuente on that staff too, or no?
I don't see him listed. I can try and look the more detail. By the way, that year Memphis lost in the St. Pete Bowl to South Florida, 41-14.
Oof. That was
that
was the
conference mates later too.
That had to be, wasn't that Matt? That was the Matt Grothe USF.
That was Matt Grothe USF. By the way, Justin Fuente was the running backs coach at TCU at that time. So he didn't come to Memphis until 2012 after being
I'm happy.
co-OC at
I'm
TCU.
happy UCF. I'm happy UCF won that game because I would be otherwise. Then Jeff would have legitimate concerns with his article with going to Memphis.
Elo, what do you got coming up? I know you're going to be keeping an eye on those TV ratings after that ABC game.
Yes, hopefully we bounce back. I could tell you the reason I didn't post the SMU numbers is because they weren't very good. It's not good when it doesn't like register in the rankings. So it's going to take an extra few days just to get those numbers. But it was not very good for the SMU game. I guess people aren't interested in watching the pony attack, I guess, or whatever. But yes, obviously the TV numbers I'll be following very closely on that, and obviously watching the Memphis game. We'll be tweeting out from that game, and obviously I might be breaking news in softball because we have a firing at FIU, so there might be some weird softball tweets you'll get on Eric Lopez Elo.
Softball wood strikes again.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's an Elo bomb, an off-season Elo bomb. All right.
There is no such thing as I've learned. So yeah, just a little bit of tweaks there, and I finished. Getting ready for the NBA season, going a week away, which will be fun, and then college basketball. So, I mean, it's going to get busier here, boys. It's going to get a lot busier.
Yeah, we're approaching the fall equinox.
There it is. That's what I was waiting on.
Yep. I'm going to be captaining the live stream, or not the live stream, but the live game thread once again this Saturday. It'll start up an hour before game time. It'll go all the way through post game. blackandgoldbanneret.com is where you want to go to follow all that. I know I will be on that on Twitter. I know that you will as well, Brian, and hopefully we'll have a few other people kind of jump in as well as the situation allows. But nonetheless, this is a big weekend, man. UCF against Memphis in the Liberty Bowl, 3:30 on ABC if you're in the southeastern United States, ESPN2 if you're not. Check your local listings for where the game is on in your area. So as we wrap it up here at blackandgoldbanneret.com and the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, should be a lot of fun coming up this weekend. Guys, thanks again. I'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
All right, don't forget to follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. You can follow us at UCF_Banneret on Twitter. I am at Jeff_Sharon. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. Brian is at Spokes_Murphy. Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret as well. And subscribe to this podcast if you don't already on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and tune in. Leave us a rating. Send us a comment. Tell us how we're doing. It does help other UCF fans find our podcast when you give us reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts. So for Brian Murphy and Eric Lopez, I'm Jeff Sharon. Thanks for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.